Beautiful. Good. That's what we've got to bring him on to. Nobody can take them.
That one has to have, if they want to achieve certain things, I am working past efforts, measures that I set out for.
Anthony Joshua, your man, and Jake Paul are finalising a deal for a December heavyweight fight in Florida.
This is a turd that will get polished into a huge pile of money. And if you know that from the outset, so I don't have.
I think it's great for boxing. I think the fight will happen. AJ is 1-0 against these guys that come in.
From the moment Anthony Joshua steps into the gym, the atmosphere shifts. There is a weight in the air, not the weight of iron plates stacked across the room, nor the pressure of a fight that will inevitably dominate headlines worldwide, but the heaviness of expectation, of legacy, of a man who has walked through the highest peaks and darkest valleys of heavyweight boxing. In the stillness between punches and the echo of his breath, you can feel the silent truth Joshua carries with him. Every great champion must face himself before he faces his opponent. And on this first day of training camp, as Joshua begins his preparation for the now targeted December showdown with Jake Paul, the battle has already begun long before either of them enters the ring. He pushes through his warm-ups with sharp, deliberate movements, sweat already rolling as he reminds himself, out loud and through action, why he's here. It's tough, but it's for me, he mutters under his breath. This is what I do. This is what I live for. The words are simple, but there's a gravity in them. Joshua isn't talking to the camera or to the world. He's talking to himself. He's reminding the fighter inside him. The same fighter who climbed from obscurity to Olympic gold, who grabbed heavyweight glory not once but twice, that this journey still belongs to him. And as he moves from drill to drill with the precision of a man who has seen every corner of the boxing world, the message becomes clear. This is not a comeback. This is a continuation. His trainers watch closely, offering short, purposeful cues. One more. Beautiful. Good. The rhythm is that of a machine sharpening itself, a former king preparing for another march to war. And yet, to Joshua, these sessions are more than routine. I feel like I'm getting stronger, he says, confidence layered beneath exhaustion. By the time the fight comes, I'll be at peak performance. He believes that. He must, because for the first time in his career, the opponent standing across from him is someone the world never imagined he would face. Jake Paul. It still sounds surreal. A YouTuber, influencer, and controversial entertainer who somehow bulldozed his way into boxing's inner circle, generating the kind of attention that many seasoned fighters spend a lifetime chasing. But whether one respects or resents his rise, there is no denying the cultural gravity he brings. Jake Paul is an event everywhere he goes. This time, however, he isn't stepping in with another aging legend, another retired fighter, or another name polished by nostalgia. He is stepping in with a man who is still very much a heavyweight threat, a man still capable of ending fights in a single destructive moment. Joshua lands in Las Vegas, the second phase of his camp, arriving with renewed energy. He walks through his rented estate, pointing at the walls, the gym, the garden, the battlegrounds he'll live inside for the coming weeks. Tough training, tough lifestyle, he says. Rough and tough. But how else would I want it? I love it. There's a shift in tone as he speaks. The smile fades. The seriousness returns. He insists he hasn't adopted a new mindset, but rather a new perspective, a more seasoned understanding of what it takes to walk through the storm and emerge intact. Everything must lead to victory. Nothing less matters. And as the sun sets over Las Vegas, the fight news begins to swirl across the globe. Reporters break stories. Pundits debate. Fans react with equal parts shock, confusion, and excitement. Mike Coppinger reports that the fight is a done deal for December in Miami, set to stream live on Netflix. Moments later, Eddie Hearn steps in, confirming the matchup but clarifying details. No exhibitions, no gimmicks, no oversized gloves. Under Queensberry rules, 10-ounce competition gloves, standard rounds, a real professional heavyweight bout. But Hearn's transparency also brings uncertainty. Negotiations are real, he says, but not complete. Conversations are happening. Numbers are being discussed. And while the financial potential of the fight is undeniable, the risks loom large. For Joshua, this is a detour, an unexpected one, a bizarre one, but one Hearn admits they would consider only if the money reached several tens of millions. For Paul, this is the summit, the ultimate prize in his evolution from YouTube sensation to self-proclaimed boxer. And for the fans, it's chaos. The kind of chaos boxing has always secretly thrived on. But chaos cuts both ways. Hearn does not mince words when discussing the danger Jake Paul could be walking into. It's extremely dangerous for Jake Paul, he says bluntly. The boxing world is saying, please AJ, go in and evaporate this young man. And beneath the promoter's usual performative flair, there's a genuine pulse of concern. He has seen Jake Paul's ambition. He has seen the delusion, the confidence, the desire. Paul genuinely believes he can beat Anthony Joshua, and that belief alone is part of the reason the fight is even on the table. Yet, from a competitive standpoint, Hearn calls it what it is, a catastrophic mismatch. A fight that could end Paul's career. Maybe not physically, but in every other way that matters. Nonetheless, the noise grows louder. Some fans claim it's 50-50. Others insist it's a joke. Pundit after pundit breaks down the potential carnage. When the subject of Francis Ngannou comes up, a man who went from hurting Tyson Fury to being obliterated by Joshua, a chilling point is made. Jake Paul is not Francis Ngannou. And Francis Ngannou could not survive Anthony Joshua. What hope, then, does a former vlogger truly have? But then, in the strange theater of modern boxing, something happens. Support emerges, not for Paul's victory, but for the fight itself. Simon Jordan, usually the sport's harshest critic, admits the bout could be good for boxing financially. It will attract a global audience. It will draw millions of new viewers. It will force the sport into conversations it hasn't been part of in years. Boxing is not just a sport. It is an entertainment empire. And this fight, he says, will be one of the biggest spectacles the sport has ever seen. Yet Jordan also calls it what he truly believes it to be, a polished turd, a cash grab, a mismatch, a circus draped in glamour and broadcast lights. A fight that should never happen, but probably will, because the world wants to watch something outrageous. Roy Jones Jr. gives a different perspective, half caution, half business. He believes the fight will happen, and he believes Joshua will end it quickly. But from Joshua's standpoint, he admits a truth. AJ will likely make more money fighting Jake Paul than almost anyone else in the division. In an era where boxing's biggest fights move slower than glaciers and negotiations collapse over broadcast rights, perhaps this unconventional storm makes more sense than the traditional route ever has. Then comes the voice of Saudi power broker Turki Alalshikh, the man shaping much of modern boxing's future. He reveals that Jake Paul has verbally agreed. He claims he wants Joshua to dismantle Paul. He calls it a win-win for boxing's entertainment frontier. And although he uses humor, the underlying message is serious. This fight can happen if the right levers are pulled. A wave of analysts follows. Some warn of severe danger. Some call it unethical. Some call it genius. Others, like Mike Coppinger, highlight the enormous hurdles of sanctioning, weight disparity, and commercial politics. Even Nakisa Baidarian, Paul's promoter, steps in to argue that the size difference isn't as shocking as it seems. He points out that Jake has been fighting around 210 pounds and once stepped into the ring at 228. Size-wise, we can get comfortable with it, he claims. Experience-wise, Jake is learning fast. But in the shadows of these debates, the Real story begins to form. Joshua is training like a man who sees beyond the spectacle. His camp speaks of 2 major fights planned for 2026, one against Tyson Fury. And to enter that chapter, he wants rhythm, sharpness, and clarity. The Jake Paul fight may be bizarre, but the training is dead serious. This is not a man underestimating a stranger. It is a man respecting the process. Jake Paul, meanwhile, grows louder online. He posts cryptic messages. He drops DMs. He taunts Joshua publicly. He stares down Alexander Usyk in a moment that ignites instant speculation. Every move feels calculated. Every stunt feels like positioning. And whether people love him or hate him, there is no denying Jake Paul understands the art of attention. Still, as more experts weigh in, a consistent theme emerges: respect for Paul's hustle, but doubt in his ability. George Groves dismisses the matchup entirely, calling it meaningless and undeserving of Joshua's time. Many fear the physical danger. Others fear the blow to legacy. Yet some admit a strange curiosity, because boxing at its core is addicted to the unexpected. By the time the discussion reaches its peak, it becomes clear that the Joshua versus Paul narrative is more than just a potential fight. It is a collision between eras, ideologies, and the very soul of the sport. On one side stands Anthony Joshua, the polished Olympian, the two-time heavyweight champion, the established warrior fighting for legacy, pride, and redemption. On the other side stands Jake Paul, the digital disruptor, the self-constructed anti-hero, the man who refuses to accept boxing's traditional gatekeeping. And somewhere in between lies the truth. This is the fight boxing deserves, even if it isn't the fight boxing wants. For Joshua, it is a test of discipline and focus, a chance to silence critics, secure generational wealth, and reassert himself in front of the entire world. For Paul, it is the ultimate gamble, one that could elevate him to mythical status or expose him completely. And for the sport itself, it is a reflection of its constant battle between purity and entertainment, old tradition and new age spectacle. As Joshua's camp continues, as the cameras roll and the sweat pours and the heavy bags tremble under his punches, one thing becomes unmistakably clear. If this fight does happen, Joshua is preparing for war, not a circus. And Jake Paul, whether out of courage or delusion, believes he can walk into that war and survive. But belief alone has never beaten a heavyweight. And so the question lingers. A question whispered in gyms, screamed across social media, and debated in studios around the world. Is Jake Paul actually walking into the biggest mistake of his life? Or is Anthony Joshua underestimating the madness of a man who has defied expectations at every turn? The truth is still out there, waiting in the long nights of training camp, waiting in the boardrooms and the negotiation tables, waiting in the lights of Miami or Saudi Arabia or wherever this spectacle finally lands. But one thing is certain. If these two men walk into the ring together, the world will stop to watch. And whether it becomes a defining moment or a disastrous spectacle, boxing will never be the same again. If you made it this far, I want to hear from you. Does Jake Paul actually stand a chance against AJ? Is this fight good for boxing or a complete circus? Should Anthony Joshua take the payday or protect his legacy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you enjoyed this deep dive, and make sure you subscribe for more dramatic breakdowns from the world of combat sports.